There she is. She looks familiar. Three-time All-SEC performer Maria Taylor, the great Georgia Bulldog herself in her college days. I'm merely Adam Amin in the presence of greatness.
So just to start, kind of talk about when you realized you wanted to start getting involved with the whole broadcasting thing.
You know, my major when I showed up at Georgia was biology and sports science or something like that, because I thought I wanted to be an athletic trainer. And then I realized I took biology. I didn't really like anything about that class. Then I changed it to business because that's what everybody else was doing, and I thought it'd make my parents happy. But then I took accounting and realized that's also where I should not be hitting my life. So I ended up doing a journalism class because my best friend in college, my roommate and teammate, Angelica Partridge, she was in broadcast news. And we used to always have, you know, Fox Sports South or ESPN coming to the games, and I always looked up in the stands and thought that'd be kind of cool, something great to do. And after the first class, I knew that this was where I was supposed to be, and finally found what my niche was. But it took a lot of different majors, and it took kind of searching for myself, I guess. At the time when you're in college, you don't know what you really want to do. But once I found it, it really stuck and resonated with me.
And then in college, you started working with IMG, and then you kind of worked your way up with, I know you worked with CSS and Turner Sports and different places like that, and then ESPN and now the SEC Network. Kind of talk about your journey going from one level to a completely different place, and just talk about that journey.
Yeah, it all started out with coming in, working for International Sports Properties. That was the company at the time after I graduated, and I had to make a decision. I could have played overseas, or I could have stayed and worked my first job in a career that I knew I wanted to be in. And it was a hard decision to make because my heart was still really in volleyball. And Audra Plummer knows because we worked together, and there were times when we'd be outside of the office and I'd just be like crying, saying I should have gone and played overseas. I don't know why I'm doing this. I still want to compete. But at the same time, I knew that my future was brighter in broadcasting than it was volleyball. I didn't want to become a coach. I didn't think that 20 years from now I was going to be doing anything that had to do specifically with only volleyball. So I worked for ISP, now IMG, and I did the broadcast, internet broadcast for basketball and radio broadcast for volleyball. And I really, really enjoyed being an analyst. In the first year, Comcast Sports South came and asked if I would do like maybe 5 games. So the first time I was ever on TV was with CSS doing an Alabama volleyball game. And I think I was late. I didn't even know what time I was supposed to show up. Didn't really know what I was doing, but I know that it was a good time and it felt like the right thing to do. And then from there, I started working with Fox Sports South, who I interned with my senior year. So it was kind of good to go back to them and do a couple. I think I did maybe 3 basketball games with them. I would work with the ACC Digital Network. So literally whoever called me and offered a job or a game, I said yes. So I was always trying to fill my schedule. I spent time working with NBC Sports Network. The only people that I didn't work with, I think, would be CBS. That's the only one that I didn't make it to. And then eventually at an SEC Media Days for football, I was with CSS working, and I met a producer that worked for ESPNU, sent him my resume tape, and he said, all right, I'm gonna give you 1 football game and I'll give you like 2 volleyball games. If you do good, you're on. If not, your career's over, whatever. So luckily it worked out okay. They liked, I guess, the work that I did, and so it's just been kind of building on there ever since then.
And talking about you worked with ESPN, you did a lot of sideline reporting and football games, and you also still did some volleyball. And now with the SEC Network, you have stuff you're doing in the studio as well, which is probably overwhelming to kind of add one more thing that you're doing. So kind of talk about how your time management and stuff like that works.
You know, I am in the studio Mondays and Tuesdays. Every other Wednesday, I'm going to have a volleyball game starting basically September 24th. And I get in for football games on Thursdays to go and watch practice, and then Fridays we have coaches meetings, Saturdays the game, Sunday I go home. So my off day is pretty much Sunday afternoon. But I love it. I mean, I can't really imagine my fall being any other way. You know, when you're a student athlete, you're so used to go, 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 go that when there's downtime, you feel like you're not being productive.
Yes.
So I started to realize that even in my off season sometimes, my mom probably gets so sick of me. I'm like, what should I do? I think I should like go house hunting. There's always something that I'm trying to do to fill my time if I'm not working. So it actually is a great thing that I'm so busy. And it really keeps me involved in, now that when I'm working with the SEC Network, you have to know everything about the entire conference, and you really have to be knowledgeable because we have a really knowledgeable audience. So it keeps me, you know, deep in every single football team, knowing the players and coaches and stats here and there. So I wouldn't really have it any other way, especially my first year.
You said being a student athlete, it taught you a lot of time management. You played 2 sports here, both volleyball and basketball. Kind of talk about how that had to be busy. Most people can barely handle 1 sport. You handled 2, so it obviously is really paying off now that you're in the working world and having to manage all this stuff.
Yeah, I always viewed it as, even when you're playing volleyball and you're just in 1 sport, your off season is still training. I mean, we're still in 2-a-days, I think, and you still have a couple of games here and there. So you never turn it off when you're a student athlete. So I just looked at basketball season as, all right, well, it's my volleyball off season plus a couple more. We're on the road a little bit more, and I don't have Christmas or Thanksgiving or spring break. But other than that, it was completely the same. And I really love the basketball team. I mean, I'm still friends with a lot of those girls, and my closest relationship is with Andy Landers. I gotta say, every time I come back to Athens, I have to make sure I see him. When I'm making decisions, when I was trying to decide whether or not I wanted to work for the SEC Network, he was the one that I went to, and I'm bouncing ideas off of him. He's helped me along the way, even when I was coming out and deciding to play volleyball or if I should go straight into broadcasting. He just sits down and tells me like it is, just like he does on the court. So I'm really thankful that I had that, and even though I only played 1 year of basketball, it's opened up my career because people are confident in allowing me sit behind a desk and talk about it or be an analyst on games. And so it's really kind of broadened my horizon. So I'm really thankful that that ended up working out and that they had me on for that year.
And then talking about your most recently working with the SEC Network, the first volleyball game, ironically, is at the school that you played at. So how exciting is it to have the first volleyball game being aired on the SEC Network, just coming back to the school that you graduated from?
Ironically or completely planned? No, I'm just kidding. I wish I had that much pull, but I was so excited that when I found out that the first game that I was going to work, the first game that's going to show up on SEC Network in that primetime Wednesday spot. I mean, there's no other show that's going to be on at 7 o'clock on Wednesday night except for SEC Volleyball, and for it to be in Athens is so big, and having it in Stegman makes it an even bigger venue, and I know that the crowd draws really well there, and people really like to see the volleyball team playing in a big arena. So I know it's going to be a great event, that the conference is finally kicking off into play. I mean, preseason's great, but it's nothing like having, the Power G going versus, Big A, Roll Tide, seeing that again. So, I mean, I love football. I love basketball. My first love is volleyball. I've never been ashamed to say that. And the thing that gets me going is when this season really starts.